Okay, good morning, everybody. We are just waiting for our straggler Instagram as usual, and then we're going to get on with another episode of DIY Wellness. Mo, how
Mhm.
are you this morning while we're waiting?
I'm doing good. How about you, Brian?
Doing good. Doing good. Definitely on an emotional roller coaster, so very excited to talk about how to treat them all like friends.
Yep, yep,
And
we're
we're
gonna
getting
talk about
ready.
emotions today.
Okay, and we are now live on Instagram, so I'm going to let Mo take it away from
Okay,
here.
welcome to DIY Wellness, the show for people taking personal growth into their own hands. In each episode of this show, Brian and I discuss one concept or method for improving quality of life and well-being. So you, our listener, can learn a little about that method and then decide whether you want to experiment with it in your own life. We encourage you to only take the things that resonate with you and then toss out all the rest. So hopefully today what we talk about is something that resonates, and then you can do a little experimenting.
Yeah, right on. So today's topic is going to be treating your emotions like friends, which may sound a little bit counterintuitive because we're always taught to get past the tricky ones as fast as we can or avoid them altogether if possible, or talk ourselves out of them or bite a stiff upper lip or whatnot. So in today's episode, you're going to learn a little bit about why we don't always need to figure out the cause or reason for our emotions. You're going to learn about the benefits of treating your emotions like friends rather than living in that place of avoidance and resistance. And we're going to get into a little bit about how to go about doing that and what that looks like.
Yeah.
So Mo, how are you taking personal growth into your own hands this morning as it relates to treating your emotions like friends?
I'm taking personal growth in my own hands by working on not trying to figure out every emotion that passes through my brain and body. Because sometimes when we're trying to figure out why we're feeling a certain way, we attach a story to it, or we try to like understand exactly where it's coming from. And sometimes that can create a little extra anxiety. It can create more negative emotions. Whereas just kind of either naming them or feeling them without trying to figure them out sometimes can allow them to pass sooner.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes trying to figure them out, it's like feels like it feels alluring to us because, oh, well, I'm feeling this objectively horrible emotion. So
Mhm.
rather than sit in it, let me do something. Let me distract myself by trying to figure it out. So the idea of trying to figure things out can be very alluring for us because it can pull us a little bit out of the emotion. But that kind of figuring it out and pulling you out is a form of distraction or avoidance in a sense. And so what we're talking about here is finding a way to, similar to episode 14 or 15, I think it was, with sitting with your emotions. This is about that too, sitting with them, but going the extra layer of now not just sitting with them, but actually treating them like friends. Because the thing is, the emotions are meant to come to their full expression. That's their, and by
Yeah.
allowing ourselves to treat them like friends, sort of invite them in, sit with them, hold space for them, we are allowing them to fulfill their destiny, so to speak, to come into their full expression. And once they
Yeah.
fulfill their destiny, they will dissipate. And as we've talked about in previous episodes, that whole process will take about 90 seconds if you really are in it, if you're in it to win it with that feeling of the emotion, so to speak.
Yeah. Brian and I did an entire season on how each different emotion has a purpose. It has a reason for being there. And so usually, anytime that you're experiencing some form of an emotion, it's because it's serving a purpose. And so to just allow it to be there is a service to yourself, to your nervous system, because it's your body just kind of naturally processing whatever it needs to process. So I don't know if you've had this experience, Brian. I'm assuming yes, because I feel like most people have. But it's like you'll start feeling an emotion, you'll be like, I just don't know. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I wish I didn't feel this way. And it's like, like like I don't understand, and I start to feel bad and guilty because I'm feeling this thing when in actuality that emotion is serving a purpose, and just allowing it to be and saying like, oh, okay, I'm feeling guilty, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling angry, and just sitting with that truth without even fully understanding where it's coming from, because sometimes you're not going to be able to figure out where it's coming from, right?
Yeah,
Just naming it and accepting it is a healthy way to process it, rather
exactly.
than I shouldn't be feeling this way, I shouldn't be feeling this way.
Yeah, exactly. And if figuring out where it's coming from is actually necessary for your growth as some kind of epiphany or insight, the emotion will deliver that to you over time. Like you actually don't need to go in and figure it out. Emotions are messengers. And sometimes the message
Yeah,
is, hey, you need to cry because your nervous system needs to be reset, in which case there'll be nothing further to figure out. Sometimes the
right.
message is something deeper, like, oh, this connects to this from your childhood. And if that's the case, it will come to you over time. So the dogged investigative, I've
Yeah.
got to go figure it out thing, it's really not necessary. Emotions know that job and they'll do that job. And so it's very beneficial to just sort of sit with and let them percolate and inform and teach without needing to go in and analyze and interrogate. Because if you think about the way Mo just put it, like, I don't want to feel this way, I wish this emotion would go away. Thinking about the analogy of treating emotions like friends, imagine a knock at the door and you open the door and you go, oh, I wish you weren't here. Please go away. Like that
Hmm.
person who has a valuable insight for you or a valuable
Yeah.
message for you, as all emotions do, is never going to want to come knocking again. And if they do, they're going to come knocking in an even more antagonistic way than that way. So you really do want to treat
Hmm.
emotions the way you would treat friendly visitors at your door.
Yeah. And what does that look like, Brian?
That looks like, okay, that looks like really allowing and to I'm going to give an example from my own personal life about what's been happening to me over the weekend to try to bring this
Yeah.
home. So I am currently, I don't know how many of you know this or not, but I'm doing a whole thing
Show
with
your
my,
whole foot.
yeah, that's it. To get to the bottom of this, that's the bottom of my foot right there. I'm doing a whole thing, right? Where I'm navigating a huge loss of autonomy with the way I can move around the world for now. And this
You
isn't to
had surgery,
compare.
right?
I had ankle surgery. Yeah, thanks, Mo. Filled in the gaps, right? There was a little
Yes.
something going on in my ankle, and they needed to do a whole thing in there, and it's fixed now. Whatever was wrong, and now it's a few weeks in this boot, and then physical therapy and all that stuff. So the point of this story though is that I actually was surprised by how much emotion came with it. Because when they first told me about this, they really downplayed the whole thing. And they were like, you can put weight on it the same day. In 3 days, you'll be feeling like normal. And that's actually not true at all. Like, I still can't really put weight on it unless I'm in the boot. And it's been 16 days and I don't feel like normal. And everything else that's online and some doctor friends of mine have said it takes 2 to 8 weeks to heal. So it's like my expectations were calibrated incorrectly by the initial doctor. And so
Hmm.
that's a whole other topic, is how to deal with our expectations. But in this case, my expectations kept getting thwarted, and that kept bringing a roller coaster of emotions. One in particular was
Hmm.
2 weeks after surgery was this date to go in and get my stitches removed. And then they were going to tell me how much I need to use the boot more or not and give me like a progress report. That 2 week mark was this Friday. And I didn't even realize that I had pinned so many hopes on it. Like, okay, so after the 2 weeks, that'll be a real corner turned and I'll be back to having a little bit more mobility and it'll be more normal. The stitches will be out. I'll be out of the boot. Hope swelled, the crescendo music. It's about to be act 3, the whole thing, right? It was amazing. And then I get there and that's not at all how it goes. Literally, they do take the stitches out. They tell me that it's going well. All that stuff is true. But then the RX, the prescription for what I need to do next, is be outside the boot all the time unless I need the boot to walk. So like I was in the boot fully for 2 weeks. Now it's like whenever I'm laying around or resting, don't be in the boot. And if I can help it, don't even be in the boot to walk. But it turns out for me, I can't put weight on it without the boot yet. So the news that I got on Friday, while it is progress and they're telling me my healing is going along nicely, it amounted to a lot more work for me because now the boot has to come on and off, which means every time I want to get up off the couch and go somewhere, I have to actually decide if that's really necessary because I got to put the whole boot on and then I got to go do the thing. And then I'm trying to walk around without the boot sometimes, which makes it very painful and very achy. So all of that is to say I went from a swell of hope to a huge swell of discouragement. And then there's like fear and anxiety. Oh, am I never going to be able to walk again? And then sorrow because it's like nobody's ever gone through this before, which is of course ridiculous. Like people have gone through this and way worse than this, but that doesn't matter. These are my emotions, right? And so the strategy in I'm so grateful to my past self and to Mo for deciding on this being the topic this week, because I didn't know that I was going to have the weekend that I had. But it was such a good example in preparation for this conversation, and it actually helped me. Knowing we had this podcast topic today was a visceral reminder for me, with every emotional swell I had, to treat it like a friend if I could help it. And that's not an easy thing to do. And I have firsthand experience to tell you that now. But when they would come, I would actually stop and I would go, oh, you are feeling angry. You're welcome here. Whew.
Mhm.
I'm actually getting emotional now as I say it because these emotions
Yeah.
really started to trust me over the weekend, which is the beautiful thing that happens when you treat your emotions like friends. And then on the heels of that, it would be like sorrow. And I'd be like, okay, okay, now sorrow's here. Yeah, I get it. I'd be sad too. It sucks. And I'm just like, but I'm not saying it sucks for me. I'm saying it sucks for the sorrow. So it's like I've actually inadvertently become detached from all the emotions and then I'm able to be there for them. That doesn't mean that I'm not feeling them and I'm not embroiled up in the thick of them. I am, but there's like a perspective that happens to you automatically when you start to detach a teeny bit and then treat your emotions like friends, like something other than you, right? And then you try to
Mhm.
be there for them the way
Yeah.
you would be there for a friend. And that's what I've been doing all weekend. And as I jokingly told Mo earlier before the talk, it has amounted to two main things. One is it has been hugely beneficial for my nervous system. That's why the emotions are at the surface right now because I'm practicing not suppressing. And so that's actually
Yeah.
very healthy. And it has also meant a very drastic depletion of my tissue supply. And so that's okay
Mm.
though, right? Like this is
Yeah.
the trade-off here. I've run out of tissues, but I'm healing my nervous system as I go through this emotional roller coaster.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but I would rather have no tissues and a healed nervous system than a pile of tissues and suppressed emotions and be alone in them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to, like, I suppose, paint a picture of what else is happening here as Brian is choosing to treat his emotions like friends. What else is changing is that instead of feeling like, for example, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm suffering, I'm sad, I'm blah blah blah. It's just a little bit of separation to the point where it's like I am experiencing these emotions and those emotions are okay and I'm not wrong for experiencing them. And so rather than him being completely consumed by all these emotions that are hitting him for good reason because he's going through a difficult time and because he's going through a thwarting of his expectations that were set by other people, right? All of these emotions are rightfully felt, but he's not completely taken out by them in the sense that it takes him out of his life, it takes him out of his ability to be himself, right? Because sometimes those intense emotions can take us out. It can make us almost not ourselves because we could become so closely identified with them. And instead, he's feeling them and accepting them, treating them like friends, and therefore he can still maintain control and be himself apart from that.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, that practice, what my experience of it has been, is that it draws me closer. So not only does it not take me out, but it draws me into the present moment, in more deeply to my true and real self. Because the truth is,
Mhm.
for all of us, this is just my personal belief system, is that we all have an undamaged, undamageable core of peace at our center. And that is the truth. And so when I'm actually blended with the anger, I'm blended with the illusion. Not that it isn't a real emotion, but the
Mhm.
truth is, the part of me that is able to be there and be wise and strong and hold space for the emotion, that's the truest part of me that ever existed. That's
Mhm.
true for all of us,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And so whenever you can separate from the emotions and sort of try to treat them like friends, you're drawing yourself closer to that truth of who you really
Yeah.
are at the center.
Yeah.
So I want to say this, like, a feeling you're having, it's just a version of you that's in a bad mood. So
Yes.
treat the feeling like you would treat a friend who's in a bad mood. You'd either meet that friend with comfort, you'd give it space, or you would be playful, you know what I mean? And try to like bring it up out of its emotional thing with playfulness based on whatever you felt intuitively was best in that moment. So the thing is to do the exact same with your emotions. Comfort,
Yeah.
distract with playfulness, or give space. Feel into it. Just don't avoid it, judge it, or critique it. Those
Mhm.
avoidance, judgment, and critique, they perpetuate the negative cycle. The
And that's what
first
all of
three,
us like to do, right?
yeah, that's what
Judge,
we all
judge,
do.
avoid, and critique. That's our what our gut reaction is to do with all of our emotions. So
Yeah,
to rise above that and do something beyond those 3 things is, like, amazing.
it's so radical. It's radical, it's
Yeah.
countercultural. You want to be an artistic, radical, countercultural badass, then treat your emotions like friends because this is the thing. Comfort, space, and play, they will liberate the trapped feelings from that cycle. It's like that you actually think about it. If you hold space for a friend and you liberate that friend from their discomfort for just a little while, that's the same thing when you hold space for your emotions. When you treat them this way, you actually do liberate them, which means you're going to feel more of it for a minute, but that's okay. Just like when you comfort a friend and you say just the right word and then they break down sobbing and you're like, oh God, that's not what I meant to happen. But then you have to comfort them anyway, right? Like that's what happens. And that's what will happen to you too. And that's okay. So just like be comforting and then be okay with the tidal wave of emotion that comes up in response to you being comforting towards that emotion, perhaps for the very first time, because our emotions don't want captivity or judgment or condemnation or avoidance any more than human beings do. That's the thing. And so I want to leave you guys with this poem by Rumi that's called The Guest House, which is for me, this poem is such a great reminder of exactly what we're talking about. Oh, it's a poetic way of sort of visualizing how exactly you can treat your emotions like friends. So I'll leave you guys with this. And then if anyone, as always, has any experience with this or tries this, please let us know in the comments. We want to talk it through.
Absolutely.
The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And I will add, as a guide from beyond to help you.
Well, and I love this poem because, and I am hearing it for the first time, so I actually hadn't heard it before. Brian just read it, but the reason I love it is because, part of in my own life and in a lot of our lives, one of the things that we're striving to do is to treat everybody well, or I hope that we're striving to do that, right? And so by extension, if we're able to do that with the emotions in our bodies as well, it's actually in alignment with trying to be a compassionate, kind, loving person, because it is an extension of treating everyone well by treating all the parts of yourself well.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that we treat ourselves is going to be directly reflected in the way that we treat others in our world. So
that's true.
Treat your emotions like friends. You're going to start treating your community even more like the friend that it is too.
Love that. That's a great place to wrap up, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. So until next week, keep taking personal growth into your own hands. And as usual, we'll be back next Monday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Much love, everybody.
Woo-woo. Have a good day.